Yo, 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 welcome to the Juiced Up Show. I'm your host, Jay Juiced Up Accardo, episode 36 of the program. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, email the show if you have any input or want to comment on anything. The email is thejuicedupshow@gmail.com. We got a great show on we got a great lineup on the docket for you today for the show. We're going to do the UFL playoff preview and also a prediction for who's going to win the UFL Cup. They call it the United Bowl, but I'm going to call it the UFL Cup because I like the ring of that better. We're also going to discuss the NBA Finals. We just had Game 1 on Wednesday. We're filming on Thursday. We're going to talk a little NHL. We never really talked some hockey, but I watched the first game of the Stanley Cup on Tuesday. We currently have Game 2 going on right now. It's looking like 0-0 in the first period, which it is. We got about 15 minutes, about 5 minutes into the first period, so 0-0 right now. So we'll discuss a little hockey, and then at the end of the show, it's the Juiced Up Takes. All right, so first on the docket, like I was saying, we're talking a little UFL playoff preview. Talk about our prediction for who we like. I've already said it like in a past episode, but we'll just dive into that a little bit more. So this past week, we had week 10 of the UFL. Couple upsets. We had Dallas beating St. Louis. Not too much on the line in that game. Maybe a seeding between them and Louisville, just like a difference in swapping places. And then we also had Houston won, I believe, as well. So there's a couple upsets here and there, but nothing really to bring home about. It was kind of expected. With it being the last week and all of the seeds were solidified. The Stallions, unfortunately, had lost their last game, dealt with some injuries on the O-line. DTR played well. And they also had gotten themselves in a little bit of a hole early in the season before getting DTR. So hopefully next year with Coach McCarron's first year under his belt as a head coach, if they can still keep DTR unless he gets on an NFL roster. Birmingham has a lot to look forward to. Aviators finished out the season pretty well. Dallas started the season well, just didn't finish strong. We'll see what happens with Austin Reed going forward, if he's going to have any NFL looks or maybe some auditions on some NFL teams for training camp. And Louisville and Orlando, the two new markets that they brought in, Mike Rapoli, the new co-owner of the UFL, doing very good. Orlando, they've been kind of at the top of the standings majority of the year. Them and DC were kind of neck and neck throughout the season. DC unfortunately had Jordan Teamu get hurt, so they have Spencer Sanders starting now. So their team's a little bit different on offense. They're a little more run heavy, a lot of more RPO, not really throwing the ball down the field too much. And then also we have Louisville. They started off a little slow with Coach Redmond, first-time head coach. But they picked it up, and they're looking really good right now. I like them a lot. I really do. I like the running game with James Robinson. You got Wheeler. You got Downsler at QB. You got Gill at the end position with the sacks record holder. The UFL had like 10 sacks this year. That's like a sack a game. That's pretty wild. You don't think about that too often. So I like with the playoffs now, the matchups, we have DC going into Orlando. DC, like I was saying, they have Spencer Sanders at quarterback now, or Jason Bean, whoever you like. Jason Bean is kind of erratic with the ball. His accuracy is not the best, so I'm thinking they're probably going to be more on Spencer Sanders, but who knows? They could be rotating quarterbacks, but I don't know if you want to do that in a playoff game. But I'm going to go Orlando in this game. They're the healthier team. They got Jack Plummer, who's now with Jordan Teamu being hurt, like I was saying before, he's going to be the league MVP more than likely. And just Coach Beck's been there. He's an experienced head coach, having coached the Battlehawks in the previous years. And so I like the way Orlando's playing right now. Like, just having your QB out is really a blow to DC. So I'll take Orlando in that game to beat DC in the first semifinal game of the playoffs. Then we have Louisville going to St. Louis. This game's probably going to be rowdy. St. Louis has the biggest attendance numbers in the UFL, so I'm guessing this game's going to be into your 30 to 35,000, pretty much like almost an NFL-type atmosphere. And, St. Louis is going to come out tough. They got a good quarterback in Luis Perez, the king of the spring. But like I was saying, I like Louisville. I'm taking Louisville to win the whole shebangy bang. And I'm liking Louisville in this game with that running game, with the way Chandler Rogers is playing right now. They're looking great. And their defense, like I said, with Gill on the edge, with the sacks, and they also got a good linebacker core. I'm going with Louisville to beat St. Louis. And then in the second round, I'm going to have, if it plays out this way, I'm going to have Louisville beating Orlando, but we'll cover that next week after this weekend's game plays out. And so the UFL did great. They posted some numbers, some viewership numbers they had on ESPN. Everything was up about 4% on ESPN on the viewership. Fox as well. So, they had a great year. It was a great product, and I hope it just keeps getting better and better, and they keep elevating their game and getting better, better play, more, the talent just keeps coming out there, and they're getting really good players. All right, next up, we're going to talk a little NBA Finals, but before we jump into that, a coach that I was familiar with growing up, watching him coach the Sacramento Kings, Coach Rick Adelman, had passed away. His son is the head coach for the Denver Nuggets. Rick Adelman was a really good coach, and he's one of these coaches that just happened to fall in an era. He actually fell in the era of Jordan and Shaq and Kobe. He coached the Portland Trail Blazers in the early 90s. They went to their NBA championship against the Bulls. Those Jordan teams with like Horace Grant, Scottie Pippen, that crew, and just couldn't get over the hump. That's kind of how it was. Then on the Kings, he had some good teams with Turkoglu, Stojakovic, Jason Williams, Chris Webber, Divock, and Jason Williams, White Chocolate, and they just couldn't get over the hump either because they were playing Shaq and Kobe every year. Robert Horry hits a clutch, three-pointer like straight on. Shaq tips it out. It's a pretty significant image. You'll see it tons of times for throughout the finals and stuff like that. So rest in peace to Coach Adelman. He was a good coach. I liked watching him. He always gave me like weird Hitler vibes just because the way he looked, and he had this like really short mustache. But, he wasn't anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I was always like, this fool looks like Hitler. But, yeah, Coach Rick Adelman, man, rest in peace. Prayers for you and your family. And you were a great coach. And, and good luck to your son with Denver going forward. NBA Finals last night. We had we had game one of the NBA Finals. New York Knicks at San Antonio. In the first quarter, it was a little back and forth. Spurs ended up getting out to a pretty big lead, about 14 points. Jalen Brunson didn't perform too well in the first half, but he was able to bounce back, and he played a great fourth quarter closing out the game. And I don't know if anyone caught our NBA special with myself, Melo Myron, the Maniac, and Jamaica Gary. We had all three pick the Knicks. Those two had picked Jalen Brunson to be MVP. My MVP was Cat. I thought Cat was going to be the difference in this series because he can pull Wemby out of the key to the three-point line, which he did in game one. He also beat Wemby on the drive a few times, blow-bys, and he was also D'ing Wemby up. Wemby was hanging all over his back for rebounds, just like over the back constantly, never got called. And so Cat played a great game. He gave a great post-game interview, just with emotion, like raw emotion, and just being real and expressing how he felt and missing his mom, and that he felt like his mom was there with him during the game. And it was an awesome interview to hear. And I think this is going to be the issue in the series. And Wemby didn't play that well. I mean, he got his little 20 points, but he only shot like 6 for 21. Didn't play the greatest. And I feel like this is going to be the issue in the series. Cornette couldn't do anything off the bench because Mitchell Robinson was eating his ass up. And then when they were driving in, they're just throwing lobs over him. Wemby's going to get pulled out. He's going to have to cover Cat at some points in the game. They also did a good play with Mitchell Robinson when Brunson had driven in. He kind of like boxed out Wemby, so he couldn't get around him to get to the block. So I think that's what's going to be the recipe for a lot of these teams in the future when you play Wemby is you got to set picks in the key. So if your guy's on the left side, you got to come across, set a pick so he can drive in and get to the basket cleanly. And so I think that's what you're going to start seeing more now is what you've never seen in basketball because you've never seen a player like Wemby. Is you're going to see a lot of back screens in the key, probably a lot of blockouts, like just stuff like that. So your team can get at least some type of path to the rim because this guy is ridiculously long and tall, and he's going to be a great player. I don't like the guy, but he's going to be a great player. And he has some special skills for being his size, but then he also has a lot of stuff that he needs to work on and polish up on his game as well. But the game was a great game. Knicks ended up pulling out, winning by 10, closed the game out like on an 11-0 run. Jalen Brunson played really well, banged up his knee during the game, also hurt his ankle, but he was able to bounce back. Josh Hart, multiple rebound game, like this ridiculous rebound game, like 15 boards. Didn't score any points, but those points don't matter sometimes in these games. Like role players can do a little bit of everything. You had Shamet hit a couple threes. You had Mike Bride hit a couple threes. Oganobi or whatever his name is hit a couple threes. So everyone kind of chipped in that the Knicks put in. They put Jordan Clarkson in for a little bit, didn't really do too much, and then never really went back to him. But the Knicks, they played a lot of guys, and they made some adjustments at halftime, and they came out ready to play some basketball. And it looks like it's going to be a good series. I had the Knicks in 7, so we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be a great game too. I feel like Wemby will definitely assert himself. He'll be probably trying to work the key more, and it's up to the Knicks to see how they're going to hold him out of the key. All right, next up, we're going to talk a little NHL. I think in the 9 months I've been recording, I probably have never talked about NHL, maybe once, if that, if I can remember. But I was just watching the Stanley Cup game because just seeing all the momentum that the Vegas Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes were bringing into the Stanley Cup from their playoff runs. Carolina just ran through Montreal. Vegas ran through Colorado, who was a pretty heavy favorite. And the final game was pretty. It was a good game, man. It was a high-scoring game. It was 5-4 Knights, 2-0. Canes came out with a big lead. They turned the puck over a couple times that the Knights were able to take advantage of. The Knights also had some turnovers that the Canes were able to take advantage of. But usually when you see like a 2-0 lead in hockey, it's pretty solidified that other team's going to hold on. But I think they made maybe tweaked a couple rules changes where it can bring up scoring a little bit more. So it was a great game. And I'm going to watch game 2. I'm following it right now on the tablet. It's still 0-0 with about 6:27 in the first period. So this game's a little bit slower than the last game. They're definitely tightening it up on defense. Probably not doing as much risk or gamble passes throughout the, across the ice, stuff like that. But it looks like this game's definitely a little bit tighter starting off with it being 0-0 in the first period from where we were in the first game when it was 2-0, Canes at the first period. And, so it looks like it's going to be a good one. I think hockey's a great sport, man. It's a unique sport. It's not for everybody, obviously, but you can't discredit them, man. These guys go hard. They don't get paid a lot of money, and it's a lot of these. It's a love for the sport that these guys play for, man. These guys got a passion for their sport, and they wear it on their sleeve. That's for sure. So we'll keep an eye out for the Stanley Cup. We'll do some more updates next week on our episode 37. All right, and next up at the end of the show, it's the Juiced Up Takes. All right, first Juiced Up Take. I work in a building that has elevators, and I'm big on elevator etiquette. You say, Juiced Up, what's elevator etiquette? Elevator etiquette is you hold the door open for someone old, maybe a lady and her kids. That's elevator etiquette. You hold the open button, or you put your hand in front of the door, like you block it with your hand type thing. That's elevator etiquette. Elevator etiquette is also you don't get on the fucking elevator when someone else is trying to get off. It's the same thing with fucking merging. Every other car. When it comes to an elevator, you let the person who's on the elevator get off before you get on. Stop being a fucking greedy prick. Elevator etiquette. Hold the door for people. Hold the open button. Close it when you don't want to ride with some stinky motherfucker. You don't get on the elevator before somebody gets off. You know how irritating that is? That you're so self-fucking-centered and worried about your own shit that you can't wait 2 fucking seconds for someone to get off an elevator? Elevator etiquette. You let the person out before you get in. First Juiced Up Take. Next Juiced Up Take. So there've been, scientists, architects, they've been floating these ideas of floating cities. And I came across one. It's called the Freedom Ship. $16 billion to build. It would have hospitals, schools, shopping, apartments, housing, all that good stuff. It would even have a 15,000 seat stadium for events, all on a ship, a 1 mile long ship. And so I was pretty like, wow, would I want to do something like that? You got to have ferries take you to the mainland. You get to cruise the world in your home. There's some things that are appealing. Obviously, a lot more cons than pros, I would say. But it made me start thinking, dang, how do you do a mortgage for that? How does crime work? Does it work in international waters? What laws are you following? Is it only boat laws? Who's the popo and who's the judges? It made me start thinking of all this crazy shit that can happen. And I guarantee you they're doing background checks and criminal background checks if you wanted to live on the floating city. So that's called the Freedom Ship. It's a $16 billion idea concept, a mile long boat. A mile long boat. that can hold up to 80,000 people. 80,000 people. That's a good amount that could survive if there was like an apocalypse. But I don't know if there was like tsunamis and shit if they would survive. But you can't dock the thing. You got to take a helicopter to the mainland or take a ferry. But it was just an interesting concept. Like I'm wondering what these architects are seeing in the future that's saying, hey, land might not be around for a lot more longer. Maybe they're expecting the big flood. I have no idea. But I thought I would just share that with you guys. And that was my last juiced take. All right, that was episode 36 of the Juiced Up Show. I hope you liked it. Like I was saying in the beginning, hit like, hit subscribe. Make sure you comment, share with your friends and your family. Email the show if you want to send some hate mail. If you just want to talk some shit, thejuicedupshow@gmail.com. Episode 37 will be back next week. I'm going to go check out the new He-Man Masters of the Universe, so I'll give my review on that. We'll talk some more NBA Finals, a little Stanley Cup, and then we'll also go over the UFL first round of the playoffs. Peace up, bless up. Everyone stay safe. Thanks again for watching.